So, our next review is going to be for the film Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Yes, we on the third film in the Sonic the Hedgehog film franchise here. After the first one dropped several years back, and it was kind of, I guess, a surprise. A lot of people liked it more than they thought they would. They were kind of like, "Hey, this is actually not bad," especially coming from the long line of terrible video game adaptations that have been over the years. Sonic actually was like, "Hey, this is actually pretty decent." Then a sequel came out, and we reviewed the first one and the sequel, and we actually liked the sequel. I remember kind of liking it, thought it was decent. What did you think about the sequel there, Doug?
I was shocked that I ended up liking it more than I thought I would.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of how I felt. That's kind of how these movies are. You're just kind of shocked, like, wow, I actually kind of enjoyed that more than I thought I would. It's actually kind of fun. Is
Yeah,
it the same thing about this third one? Well, stay tuned and listen in. So, with this third one, we have the introduction of a big franchise character, and that is Shadow, who is voiced by Keanu Reeves, who's the main antagonist in this film. You also have the returning antagonist Jim Carrey as Eggman there, along with he's doing double duty. So he's playing Eggman and playing the grandfather of the Eggman character there. So he's kind of doing double duty there. You also have the return of Idris Elba's character Knuckles, and you also have Tails, who also makes a return here, who we got introduced to in the second film. So now we see that it's basically a team Sonic now that you kind of got going on with Knuckles, with Sonic, with Tails doing adventures. In this movie, it doesn't waste any time of just basically getting into the plot. It's like there's a little bit of introduction. Okay, these are kind of where the characters are a little bit. This is what's happening with him and James Marsden and Tika Sumpter, and then boom, there's already a mission. Shadow busted loose. The team has to catch him. World-ending threat. Boom, let's get into this. Like it doesn't waste any time at all getting into the events, which I actually appreciate and actually kind of like about that. This movie doesn't waste
they're
any
like,
time.
look, you've seen two other movies. You know how it is. You know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you know what's kind of you know the deal already. Okay, these furry creatures that can talk and they got special abilities. You've already been acclimated to this already. We don't need to kind of guide you into it. So yeah, that's kind of what you got going on here with this third Sonic film. Dusk, what are your thoughts here? Sonic the Hedgehog 3.
Um, like the first and second movies, I was surprised that this. Not only were there a lot of references, of course, like the previous movies, but there were a lot. They ended up working them out pretty decently well. This is a for any, I guess, big Sonic fans. This is kind of a mix of Sonic Adventure 2's story with what they have in the current movie, and they found a way to kind of work that in with what they've already been doing in the movie, and it's surprisingly decently thought out in the way they approach it. Now, am I saying this is high cinema or anything like that? No, not at all. It's still a goofy, fun movie, but I was surprised by how much fun I had with it and how much the characters and the environment took themselves at least a little seriously while still being silly and ridiculous. But riding that weird line where it was funny, but it knew when to need to go. Okay, no, but we got to take this seriously now. That think there are actual stakes. Uh, Characters actually die in this movie, surprisingly enough, and they have to actually take the situation seriously, which set that tone shift from those 8-bit games over to the more quote unquote mature Sonic Adventure games. What about you? Uh oh.
Oh, sorry, muted myself. I'm not big into the video games like a lot of people, so
Hmm.
I've never played a lot of the Sonic video games. I know some of the characters, but I don't know all the
Yeah.
lore associated with Sonic. But yeah, I have heard people talking about it and say the same thing as you that they said, yeah, very much takes from Sonic Adventures 2. And including a lot of these characters from the Sonic universe, like we saw, like I said, the introduction of Knuckles and Tails there. In the second film, did you see the Knuckles TV show?
I saw some bits of it and I just went, I don't really need to see this.
Yeah, I know I was planning on doing a review of it, but then I was like, "Alright, fuck it."
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it was
But
something to put on Paramount.
yeah, but Idris Elba, I think, does a good job as Knuckles. I think the
Oh,
voice
he's very underrated. I think he does
very
a very good
funny.
job.
And there's also, as Hunter mentioned, he talked about, is there a mid credit scene in Craven? No, but there's a mid credit scene here in Sonic 3. There's a mid credit scene that you can stay for. There's a mid one and there's a post one. So another character from the Sonic universe shows up there that people might like. But yeah, I mean, the thing about these movies is they're surprisingly just a lot of fun. I mean, it's like watching the movie. I was like, am I crazy right now? Am I insane? Like I'm actually having kind of a little bit of a good time watching this. And the fact that this is the third one, and like you said, we're introduced now to these characters, we're more acclimated to this. It's like, okay, this world of these furry creatures with these powers, it's like everything doesn't seem as ridiculous maybe in the first movie. You have Shadow, who I know is a big character from the video games. How did you like Keanu Reeves as the voice of Shadow? Do you think he fit for that
I
character?
think he shockingly did a very good job as Shadow. He he's Keanu Reeves still, but I think he did do a good job voicing the character, kind of nailing this more everything with Shadow is grungy and edgy. It was the mid 2000s, so that was the style of the time. And I
Yeah.
think he does actually nail the voice acting. Honestly, I give him mad props. Honestly, I think everybody did a good job. Everybody fit their role, did what they were going to do. They had hit the emotional beats when they needed to. Again, I cannot tell you how shocked I am that a third Sonic movie, this is the rare fact that we've had 3 Sonic movies, and each one I can honestly say I can't believe I enjoyed or was as decent to pretty good quality that they've been and consistent as they've been for 3 movies now. What is happening?
I mean, a lot of people talk about, I mean, I know the bar isn't really that high, but, this is being one of the best video game movies that we've had there with these Sonic movies. I mean, like I said, the bar really is pretty low. When you think about good video game movies, I mean, there's like Mortal Kombat and maybe Street Fighter, I guess. So the bar is pretty low. But I think
Wreck-It
that,
Ralph, if you count video games in general?
yeah, Wreck-It Ralph, I guess, if you count that one. But yeah, I mean, these are, I think they've gotten better and better with each of these movies, and like I said, because of the mid-credit scene, and I think they've already announced it already that there is gonna
Oh, they're
be
making a
a 4th.
4th one. Absolutely. They've already announced it.
They've already announced they are definitely making a 4th film. And like I said, a lot of the returning members here, which the first one focused a little bit more on the human characters. Here, we drifted away from more of them,
Which is
and
completely understandable by this point.
yeah, because it's like, okay, now we know that, I mean, the human characters were there for a purpose to, like I said, guide you in, but now that we've gotten there, now the focus is a lot more on the Sonic and his friends and his team and those people. Not to say that James Marsden and Tika Sumpter don't come in and provide good support still for them. Like I said, I think they do a good job. Jim Carrey, who's also returning here as Eggman, who's one of the other human characters. I mean, sorry, Robotnik. I'm sorry,
Oh,
Is
yeah.
it? Robotnik there. Um, and then, yeah, I feel like him doing double duty here, him being both of the characters, it can be a little much, um,
Yeah.
even for, I think, Jim Carrey standards. There's some sequences I'm like, okay, I get this is a kids thing, and you want to do some stuff for kids. There's like a dance sequence that
Oh, yeah.
happens that's like, this kinda, like, just to throw in, like, some pop culture references there with him, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I think this is a little cringy. I don't think this works so well. Do you understand what I'm saying there
Yeah,
with
no, I
Jim
get
Carrey?
what you mean. I totally get it. Yeah, it can be a little much. Even I was going like, okay, they're kind of letting you chew the scenery a little too much. He does a good job differentiating between the two, despite playing very similar characters and the small little nuances between both of them, between Ivanov or regular Robotnik and his grandfather Gerald Robotnik. I'm glad that they stuck with the that they are relatives and that Maria was a relative of the Robotnik family. I do like that Maria is still a linchpin character for Shadow, so I'm glad to see that that was still there and treated as wholesome as they treated it in Sonic Adventure 2 and
Yeah.
other works that include her. Uh,
Uh,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
Oh, and but they do the whole backstory stuff with Shadow. I actually found it a little compelling. I actually thought this is kinda yeah, when he, learn his kinda history and learn of his kinda upbringing. It's basically, like when Superman it's like one of those alternative universe Superman stories of when instead of,
Yeah,
mom, pa Kent got him, it was the government that got him instead, so it's just like he's been just raised in a lab his whole life,
yeah.
and then he forms this bond with this little girl, Maria, and then I don't know, I found that kinda,
It's kind of endearing.
yeah, I mean, the way they play it out was kinda good, and I like that. So that was really done. Yeah, and then when him and he faces Team Sonic, it's a good adversary for him to face there because of what he can do. So his ability is he can teleport and he's got, like, very extreme strength as
Yeah, he has the
well.
power of chaos control.
Yeah, so chaos control there. So that causes big tension within the Sonic team, and kind of you see them kinda splinter a little bit because of that, of how to deal with, Shadow. But yeah, I mean, the movie's just it's fun. I mean, it's a fun thing. I mean, all the still the same kinda if you issues if you didn't like Sonic 1 or 2, like
You
Sage,
going?
who's
You're not gonna like this.
the Radiant for Maturity, and I do a stream with those guys, Sage in particular there. They hate the Sonic movies. They hated 1, they hated 2. I think they didn't even see 2 because they hated 1 so much, and they hate Jim Carrey with a passion. They
Oh
hate him
wow.
so much in this movie that they said, like, every other good Jim Carrey role is forever tainted because he was Eggman
Whoa. Okay.
and Sonic. They
Damn.
just hate these movies that much. Um but yeah, so if you didn't like those, I doubt you're not gonna like this one either. But if you found those ones good, then I could say it still continues that same thing. You still have the blatant product placement in here that's still very prevalent. I mean, they just go to a restaurant in Tokyo. It's like, hey, we need, and it's so obvious, but it's just like doesn't even really bother you that much. I don't know. It's just like when they go to like some restaurant in
Well, I
Tokyo.
mean, it's not only it's like they explained it and said, "Oh, it's the Chow Garden," which was a really big feature for the Sonic Adventure games, where you kept and the chows, and that we've explained it. Oh, it's the third biggest restaurant chain in Japan. I'm like, only in Japan could you pull off a cutesy little restaurant gimmick thing like that.
Yeah.
That actually works and makes sense and is dumb, but these characters would think that it. I mean, Miles is the youngest out of all of them. He's the only one I could be like, yeah, he'd be one to advise it. Be like, hey, let's go somewhere here. You'd be
Yeah.
the only one to know about it and actually like it.
So I mean, you still got all those elements. Yeah, if you didn't
How
like
did you
Jim
feel
Carrey,
about his assistant, Robotnik's assistant? I've actually really grown to kind of like him as a supporting character throughout the movies and their
yeah,
dynamic. Go
he
ahead.
works really well. Yeah, I like him. There's always good comedy moments with the both of them,
Yeah,
and their kind of relationship, how it's kind of borderline
yeah.
abusive, there. But I don't know, maybe that's their thing. Maybe he likes the dom sub,
Yeah,
relationship.
so apparently in the very first movie, originally his role was supposed to be extremely more subdued. He was going to have either no lines or very few lines. And then apparently him and Jim Carrey, the way they just worked off each other, they ended up building this rapport, and that ended up being written into his character. So he had some character to him other than, because I think originally he was just going to stand around and be his assistant and whatever. And the actors ended up getting a rapport, and that just became their rapport of characters, and I think that worked out really well.
Mm, nice. Okay, yeah, because I like them. Yeah, I like their kind of back and forth there. Any big weak spots for you with this movie?
Uh, I mean, the weak spots of all the others. It's just if you don't like the Sonic movies, or I'm sorry, if you don't like the first one, that you're not gonna like. It's very much like these. Is it gotten a little better? I think it's gotten a little tighter than the first one. The first one had to set up a lot of groundwork, and you had to really care and really set up that initial groundwork to make it somewhat believable or have stakes. Second one enhanced that a little bit, bringing in Tails and Knuckles, and I would have liked to seen a little bit more characterization with. I understand why they limited them. A little more characterization with James Marsden and his what and I'm sorry, what's her name? The actress.
Um, Tika Sumpter.
Picking something. Thank you. I like to see a little bit more because with the little bit we do see of them, I think they're great, honestly, and I really love their dynamic. They really do. Those two characters. It's okay to have. I think this movie does show, at least this franchise does show, you can have human characters in a fantastical or this kind of a franchise setting. You just have to really work on them and make them have a place and a purpose in the story. And I like them so much that I don't mind seeing their dynamic between them and the rest of the Team Sonic. I really like them, and I like to see more of them. But I understood why we have so much already going on. It's hard to. I think they did the best they could. I do wonder though. After they use a certain item, I kind of go, "Wait a minute, what happens to the Master Emerald and a couple other things?" You're like, based on how this ends. I'm sure, though, honestly, the way they've at least worked on the other movies, I'm sure they'll bring that up at some point.
Mm,
Probably in the next movie, honestly.
yeah. And there's even a big kind of Dragon Ball Z fight that happens in this
Oh
movie
yeah,
that's actually, a little cool, I guess.
yeah.
So there was that.
It
Yeah.
and they bring up a fan favorite track that the movie's getting sued for.
Oh, what was the track?
Oh, Live and Learn.
Okay. Why are they
And the
getting
reason, okay, so the reason that he's bringing that up is apparently the guys who did the recording for it is basically suing it. It's like, look, you've used this song for like almost 15, 20 years since we made this. This has gone well beyond when the contract that we originally wrote this. So we want to be basically, it's like we need to be compensated if you're going to keep using the song,
Mm,
because you've passed that point of time where you can keep using that song or keep using our work. Suda 50, I think it's something 50. No, I'm
okay.
blanking on their name. They're famous band with that franchise, but yeah, that was just most recently I heard about that. I didn't know what it pertained to, but now seeing them, like, oh, I can see that they keep using their moving. I mean, their music makes up a lot of the modern Sonic. They recorded so much for the adventure series and everything that moved forward, so it's hard to not think of Sonic without either Michael Jackson 8-bit music or this or their music, heavy metal music.
Mm. So yeah, you got some impressive moments like that in the movie there. Um, I don't think not to say. I mean, talking about Jim Carrey, I don't think he's bad in it. I still think
Oh
he's
no,
still solid. But yeah, I just think the whole there's two of them now. Even though I think they do a good job differentiating between. He does of like
Crush
the rap
40. That's the name of the band. Sorry, Crush 40.
Crush Funny. Okay. I think he does a decent job there differentiate, but it's still kind of like them playing off each other or him playing off himself is kind of a little much at times. There they do
Oh yeah,
with that. Um, but yeah, I give this. I mean, again, Sonic movies continue to surprise me. Can they do it again with a fourth one? We'll see with that because the fourth
it'll
one
be the
is
first
coming.
one without possibly without Jim Carrey. Although the reason he took the role for this movie is because he bought a lot of stuff and he needed money.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he needs. So it's kind of like a Nicolas Cage thing. He kept buying like dinosaur bones and
I
shit like
don't know what's going on with Jim Carrey's life. I know he's unfortunately a very depressed guy,
that.
and but I love him anyways. And honestly, the way they ended it, there's easy ways to just say, "Oh yeah, he's fine, kids. He
Yeah,
made out some BS way." We didn't see the body. We don't see the body of a villain. They're never really gone.
yeah. And like I said, stay. There's a mid credit, post credit scene. So there's that. Like, have there's
That
been with all.
alone, from when I was in the theater, that there was some cheers in that moment. Although the biggest consequences in the trailer for me is they cut a part of the moon off. How are you gonna fix that?
Uh, yeah, that seems like
That's a big like a oh crap.
uh, I'm sure they'll think of something. They'll think of something to do.
Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if there's like Gunn has sent an operation in space to put we're operation put the moon back together, Sonic. Like it's literally just like as a joke, like, hey, we were trying to like save the world. It's like, and now we're putting the moon back together, and we had to spend $4 trillion.
Mhm. I mean, has Gunn ever had an operation like
Yes, they have.
On the moon? Oh,
Yes,
okay,
they have.
okay. So
They've
maybe
had
that's
operations on the moon. Knuckles in Sonic X anime pushed the moon or base the size of the moon with his bare hands doing some crazy crap. Sonic X is insane. I don't even watch much of it, but I've seen clips. But yeah, they've Gunn has had operations on the moon. Um, they've done stuff in space. later enemies of Sonic are aliens that further aliens that come from space or other planets. It it's all over the place.
But I like this. I give it tune in. What about you, Dust?
Um, Surprisingly, once again, to shock of no to myself even, I give this a solid tune in.
Mm,
Was entertaining. It was dumb, but it understood what it was, but it wasn't super stupid. It knew exactly what it was. It had fun with what it wanted to be, but it treated itself just seriously enough, and they didn't blow a bunch of budget on a lot of needless stuff. And they followed the plot of the game pretty good and actually improved it in some ways,
okay.
adding more to it than was in the 2000s game that was, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, is like people remember it better before because of nostalgia. The one thing I have noticed though, the sidebar, just a small thing, Sonic's more blue in this movie than he was in the previous two. They made him a much lighter blue.
Okay. So you say he's a lighter blue than he was, or he's more blue?
Yeah, I saw this. I watched the second movie just to get my bearings. 'Cause I'd forgotten,
Yeah.
and then because I already seen the first one a while back, I pretty much remember that. And yeah, he was. It might be the lighting of the new lighting in this one, but I remember he was bluer in the second one. He was less light pigment.
Okay.
The other ones look the same, so that's why I was kind of like, did they just change the model or change the lighting on the shade on it? But that might be able to just because there was a lot more darker scenes in this one than in the other movies, so maybe they just needed ways for him to stand out more against the backdrops.
Mm, okay.
But yeah, that's a solid tune in for me, man.
Yeah. Well, 2 strong tune-ins for Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Like I said, I mean, hey, I'm going fast, man. I'm
I don't know
liking
what to tell you.
hey, these Sonic movies are fun. Yeah, I have a good time watching them.
I
Maybe
was
I'm
shocked in the first movie shocked me. Second movie continued like, wow, they actually kind of nail. At least they did pretty good. And then this one, I'm like, yeah, they somehow did it. So the fact that they're announcing a fourth one, I'm like, you know what, Sonic, you do that. You do that. You add that, especially that mid credits roll. You go for it. Why not?
yeah.
Sega
Uh,
fans are eating well, I guess.
yeah, and this is, doing a franchise best,
Oh yeah, it's
for
kicking ass.
6.5 million in previews right now, so it's doing really well.
Oh yeah, it's gonna
Uh,
dominate the weekend.
yeah. I mean, Mufasa, I don't know how it's doing in the box
Oh, it's
office, but
gonna might Mufasa will do well for ish for a weekend and then drop off. But this movie, I could see this like this is gonna go strong.
yeah. This is a perfect movie to take the kids to go see,
Yeah, perfect. I
the
was happy
movies.
to see Wade again for a quick cameo.
Oh, yeah, Adam Polly, who was in the Knuckles show.
Yeah, he was. He was one of the main characters in the Knuckles show.
So this movie does have a reference to the
It
Knuckles
does
show.
actually reference it pretty hard.
Yeah, so I guess, hey, that's a part of the lore of the Sonic movies.
I will never watch. Maybe if I'm bored, maybe if I'm bored, I will check it. I will recommend though. They did a 8 minute or like a couple of minute. It's on YouTube for free. They did a Christmas special, brief special. Check that one out. They did it in kind of like stop motion, Rankin Bass style, on
Okay,
their official channel to promote Christmas in the movie.
okay,
That was kind of cute. It's like the because Sonic's teaching them Knuckles and Tails about Christmas.
okay. And that's on the Paramount channel, you said? The
No,
you
it's just on YouTube. You can find it on YouTube.
Okay. Just type in Sonic Christmas and
Yeah, Sonic Christmas. You should find it.
okay,
2024 Christmas. You should find it pretty quick.
alright.
It's only a few
Oh,
minutes.
oh, yeah. So this is it right here. This looks cute.
Yeah, it's just a cute few minutes. And yeah, it's like this little Rankin Bass, only like a minute 30.
Santa Claus.
I am familiar with Mr. Santana.
It's Santa.
Mr.
Santana.
Mr. Santana. Guitar player. Jesus.
And then Shadow shows up at the end and voiced by Keanu Reeves. And then it just kind of leads in to watch Sonic 3. It's a cute little Rankin Bass little like minute special.
Okay. Awesome. I'll check that out.